Hi everyone. In this lecture, let's learn about capability-based systems. Now, what do we mean by capability-based systems is all along we have been learning about system protection. So capability-based systems means I mean the protection systems which use capability lists to give protection to the resources. So we also call the resources as objects in our protection system. So first of all, let's try to recall what is the meaning of protection. Protection is nothing but protecting the access of resources or the objects by the programs or processes or by the users present in the computer system. So we are going to have resources, we have to protect it from the programs or processes from malicious or harmful access. So in your capability based protection system, all these accesses to so we also call these resources as objects. Okay, in the concept of protection, resources are also called as objects. And in a capability based protection system, the accesses to objects are actually controlled by capabilities. That is why it is called as capability based protection systems. And what do we have in a capability? What is the meaning of a capability? Capability is nothing but it contains the name of the object and the set of access rights to the object. Recall what we learned in access matrix. So in access matrix, in the rows we'll have the different domains in which a process may operate, and in the columns we'll have the different objects. The objects are nothing but the resources of the computer system. So our capability will contain the name of the object and the set of access rights for the object. So that is the meaning of capability based protection. Protection means protecting our objects from programs or processes, and capability is nothing but it contains the name of the object and the set of access rights to the object. But one important thing which you have to remember here is, in a capability based protection system, if a process requests for the access to the resource or to the object, the requesting process has to simply possess the capability. If it wants to perform an operation on an object, it has to possess the capability for the object. Okay, then if it possesses the capability, it will be allowed for access. If it doesn't have the capability, it will not be allowed for access to the object or to the resource. Now this is the basic concept of your capability based protection systems. Now here we are going to learn about two examples of two types of capability based protection systems, namely Hydra and the Cambridge CAP system. Okay, we are going to learn about these two types of protection systems. These two systems vary widely in complexity. I would say Hydra is a little bit more complex than the Cambridge CAP system, which is simple. Okay, they vary widely in their complexity. They also differ in their protection schemes which is being provided. But then we are going to learn, in order to learn about them, in order to know in order to understand the protection theories which we have learned so far. So let's get into it. So our first type of protection system is our Hydra protection system, Hydra OS. Okay. So what is Hydra? So if an introduction to Hydra has to be given, Hydra is nothing but it is a capability based, object oriented microkernel operating system. It is a capability based, object oriented microkernel operating system, and it is designed to support a large number of operating systems on top of it. Now, what is the meaning of microkernel? When I say microkernel, it means it is just a nucleus or a kernel. On top of it, we can build our own subsystems and run it. Okay, so it is just a microkernel or a nucleus. It is not when I say it's a microkernel, it means try to understand that it is not a complete operating system. Okay, and then the name Hydra is actually derived from a Greek mythological creature called Hydra. And this was actually developed as a part of a hardware multiprocessor project, which was developed at the Carnegie Mellon University in the 1970s. And then, but then one important thing which you have to remember here is Hydra has been discontinued now, the use of Hydra. But then why we have to learn it is because it's designed, by studying its design philosophy and flexibility, we'll be able to understand the protection theories which we have learned so far. So that's why we are learning about it now. And I told you Hydra is just a microkernel, or it's just like a nucleus. The OS of Hydra is just like a microkernel or a nucleus. It's not a complete operating system. So it just provides a base on which the different OS facilities can be implemented. Okay, for example, users can build their own file systems on top of the Hydra microkernel OS, or they can build their own command languages on top of the Hydra OS. So because of this, since Hydra is just a microkernel where users can build their own file systems or their own languages, because of this, Hydra is very much suitable for experimentation. Okay, Hydra is very much suitable for experimentation because it is flexible. It is also secure. It provides secure protection mechanisms. And since it is just a microkernel, it is very much suitable for experimentation. Now, why we cannot do this experimentation with all our traditional operating systems, like if you take our Unix, something like that, if you want to do experimentation in Unix, if you want to modify something in Unix, you cannot do it very easily because if you want to add a new subsystem on top of the Unix, you have to make changes to the existing Unix kernel. So that is difficult in our traditional OS. So, but that is not required in this Hydra. That is why it was, when it was there, it was very much considered suitable for experimentation. And the other thing is, this implementation of Hydra was actually done in a language called as Bliss. Okay, it was implemented in a language called Bliss. And then that is all about the introduction of Hydra. And next thing is, as I told you, Hydra is an object-oriented language. So because of that, everything is, and we know that object-oriented or object-based language means everything will be an object. What is the meaning of when I say everything is an object? It means procedures are objects, files are objects, semaphores are objects, your message ports are also objects. Everything will be implemented only in terms of objects. And we know that by the operations also will be performed, operations also will be objects only. If you take a procedure will be an object, and calling of the procedure also will be another object. Okay, so everything, since Hydra is an object capable language or object oriented language, object based operating system, it was everything is object oriented in Hydra. And the object of Hydra consists of three parts, namely name, type, and representation. The name is nothing but the object name. So every object has a unique name to distinguish it from other objects. The second one is the type. Type denotes the type of operation which can be performed on the object. As I told, everything is an object, so the operation is also an object in Hydra. And usually it is a 64-bit value which will usually contain some other object name which will perform the operation for Hydra. And the third part of Hydra object is representation. This representation usually consists of two parts, namely data part and capability list. Okay, data part usually stores the actual data represented by the object, through which we will read the data or write the data. And then capability list stores the list of all the capabilities associated with the object. So again, try to recall what we have in the capability. Usually, a capability usually contains the name or the address of the object along with the set of access rights for that particular object. So capability means the name of the object or the address of the object along with the set of access rights allowable for the object in that particular domain. So that is called capability list or C list, that will be stored in representation along with the data part of the object. So that is about the objects in Hydra. So next one is about, you have something called as generic rights and auxiliary rights in Hydra. So in Hydra system, there are basically two types of access rights. Just now I told you capability means it will contain the name or the address of the object along with the set of access rights for the object. Okay, so this access rights which is stored in a capability is of two types, namely generic rights, which is also called as basic system rights, and the other type of rights is called auxiliary rights. Okay, generic rights are also called system defined rights, and auxiliary rights are also called user defined rights. And usually this auxiliary rights will be generic rights will be of 16 bits and this auxiliary rights will be of 8 bits. Totally 24 bits will be reserved for the access rights stored in the capability. And what is the difference? For example, an example of this generic rights is, for example, you may have some generic rights like get data, put data. What do I mean by generic rights is, for every object, there will be some basic operations to be performed. No, that will be represented as generic rights. Say, for example, if you take a memory segment, reading from the memory segment, writing to the memory segment, or executing that memory segment might be a generic right. An example of actual command, which was actual generic writes, which was used in Hydra, was get data and put data. Now this get data is used to get the data from the object part of, from the data part of the object to the memory, and put data is used to put that, it is used to store the data from the memory to the data part of the object. Okay, these two operations are, these two writes were called as generic writes in the actual Hydra operating system. Apart from this, depending on the object, user can also declare their own, depending on the object, users can also declare their own auxiliary writes. Okay, that is why it's called user defined writes. But then one thing to note is this auxiliary writes will not be interpreted by the Hydra OS. The generic writes will be interpreted by the Hydra OS, but this auxiliary writes will not be interpreted by the Hydra OS. But then protection will be given both for both these type of writes by the protection system of the Hydra OS. That means, for example, let's say you have a procedure or a subroutine. So for that procedure, you may have a access right called call writes. Call writes will enable a process to call the procedure, will give the rights to call the procedure for a process. Now this has no meaning for a non-procedure object, right? Call writes access right is has a meaning only for a procedure. It doesn't have any meaning or sense for a non-procedure object. That's why auxiliary writes will be interpreted only by the user. It will not be interpreted by the operating system, and it is also declared by the user only. So user will declare it, user will interpret it. The operating system will not have any dealings with it, but then protection will be given for both these type of writes by the protection system in the OS. And so, as I told, every process, if it wants to access, if it wants to perform an operation, it has to possess the capability for the object, as well as it has to know the name of the operation which it wants to perform. Because operations can be of, it can be a generic operation or it can be an auxiliary writes operation. So every process must know the name of the operation, then only the OS will be able to provide the protection to that operation. So, and then, so next thing is about, you have something called as rights amplification and type manager in Hydra. Okay, since Hydra is an object-oriented model, everything is an object. That means procedures or procedure invocations or files or message ports, everything is an object in Hydra. So that means since procedures are objects, they are also accessed indirectly by capabilities. Okay, procedures are objects and capabilities store the object name or the object address along with the set of access rights for the object. So if a process wants to access a procedure, it will possess the capability for that particular procedure, and it will access the procedure through the capabilities, right? That is what I mean by procedures or objects accessed indirectly by capabilities. And then next thing is rights amplification is allowed by trustworthy procedures for a specific type. Now I'll tell you what is the meaning of rights amplification and what is the meaning of type manager. So in Hydra OS, users will be able to create new type objects to support new kind of resources. By resource, it can be anything, right? It can be a file or it can be a semaphore, something like that. So whenever user creates a new kind of resource, he will create new type objects. So if user wants to create a new type object, he will be calling the type manager for the type object. So we know that capabilities will store the object name and the access rights for the object. So this type manager is there, no? This type manager has the power to gain additional privileges to an object of its type, which is passed by a caller. Okay, through the type manager, the process can gain additional privileges and it will be able to execute some additional operations. So this facility is called rights amplification. Okay, I'll repeat. So whenever user wants to create a new type, he'll be calling the type manager for that particular type of resource, and this type manager has the power to gain additional privileges to the object. Okay, let's say for example, you have a particular file to which only read and write operation is allowed. Through the type manager, the process will be able to gain execute operations, execute writes also for that particular file. So additional privileges can be gained by the type manager only for a specific period of time. And then after the operation is executed, finished, after the operation is over, the process will return to an unamplified state. Okay, writes will be amplified. That means additional writes will be gained. Operation will be executed. Once the operation is completed, the process will return to the unamplified state. This facility is called writes amplification. So this amplification of writes, how will we know which object type has to undergo writes amplification is, this amplification of writes can be stated explicitly in the declaration of an abstract data type to the Hydra OS. So when you declare an abstract data type, that time itself you can say that this particular abstract data type can undergo amplification of writes. Amplification of writes can be done for this particular abstract data type, that can be informed to the type manager in the declaration stage itself. So that is about writes amplification. This will be allowed only for trustworthy procedures. That is, even if you do writes amplification, the protection system of Hydra ensures that it doesn't result in any undefined procedure access the particular object. So next is about Hydra solves the problem of mutually suspicious subsystems. That means, what do I mean by mutually suspicious subsystems is, suppose we have a service program which can be invoked by a number of users. By service program, for example, let's say you have a sorting subroutine, or you have something like a compiler program. So that may be called by a number of users. So in that case, if this, let's say there is a malfunctioning in the service program, then what may happen? It may actually damage the given user data. Okay, consider that you have a service program, you have a calling program. If there is a malfunctioning in the service program, the calling program's data might get damaged, or the calling program should, vice versa can also happen. The calling program should not be able to access the private data of the service program. It should not be accessed directly by the calling user program. So Hydra, this concept is called mutually suspicious subsystems. Okay, Hydra provides mechanisms for directly dealing with the problem of mutually suspicious subsystems. How it provides is, you have the Hydra, in Hydra, a subsystem is built on top of the protection kernel, right? So the subsystem will interact with the kernel through kernel defined primitives. Okay, I told that kernel in Hydra is just a microkernel. Many subsystems can be built on top of the microkernel, and the subsystems will interact with the kernel through kernel primitives, and the subsystem designer can define policies for the use of resources by user processes. He can say that only this particular operation is allowed, and this operation, he can define protection mechanisms to allow for the allowable and non-allowable operations. And he will define the mechanisms, protection mechanisms, and it will be enforced by the standard access protection of the capability system of Hydra. Okay, the policies will be mentioned by the subsystem designers, but then the policies will be enforced by the protection system of the Hydra operating system. So that is how it solves the problem of mutually suspicious subsystems. And the last thing about Hydra is, in Hydra, there is a huge library of system-defined security procedures. That means, if I want to implement protection in Hydra OS, I need not think of how to what will be the protection policies to be enforced and how to enforce it. I need not write the code I need not write the code by myself. Already a lot of system-defined security procedures are there. I can just incorporate into my code and get the protection. So the user programs can call the predefined security procedures already available in Hydra for providing system protection. So that is all about the Hydra operating system. The next type of capability-based protection system is the Cambridge CAP system. Now, as I told you, this Cambridge CAP system, compared to Hydra, it is simple, but simple as well as less powerful. Okay, simple and powerful, but when you compare it with Hydra, it is less powerful. And in Cambridge CAP system, there are two types of capabilities, namely data capability and software capability. Just like we had the system-defined rights and auxiliary rights in Hydra, we have the capabilities are of two types, namely data capabilities and software capabilities in your Cambridge CAP system. So the data capability, what is the feature of this data capability is, it can be used to provide access to objects, but only basic operations can be performed. For example, with a data capability, a process will be able to do only read, write, and execute of the individual storage segments associated with the object. Okay, if a process possesses a data capability, The process will be able to do only read, write, and execute operations on the storage segments of the object. No other operations are allowed. But then these data capabilities are interpreted by the OS. That is, it will be interpreted by the microcode in the cap machine. The other type of capability is your software capability. Now, the software capability is not interpreted by the OS, by the Cambridge Cap OS. That is, it is not interpreted by the microcode in the cap machine. And this software capability but then protection will be given for both these types of capabilities by the Cambridge Cap system. But then who will interpret it is software capability will be interpreted by a protected procedure. Protected procedure means some privileged procedure. This protected procedure may be written by an application programmer. Okay, the user only is going to write this protection procedure, and through the protected procedure, software capabilities are going to be interpreted. That means user can write any procedure for the software capability. And so when the protected procedure gets executed, what happens is a particular type of writes amplification happens. Writes amplification happens when the protected procedure gets executed. And then, so by that, what will happen is a process will temporarily acquire the right to read or write the contents of the software capability. Just try to understand, software capabilities are interpreted by protected procedures. Protected procedures are written by application programmers. But then when a process tries to execute the code of the protected procedure, the process will temporarily get some writes amplification to read the software capability or to modify or write the software capability. Okay, that is about software capability feature in Cambridge Cap. But then here, although you may have a doubt that this is protected procedures are written by application programmers. So by that, and through the protected procedure, any process can gain access to the software capability. So maybe the protection may be compromised, but then the security of the overall Cambridge Cap system will not be compromised, because the basic protection system in this Cambridge Cap system will not allow any unverified or any user-defined procedure will not be able to access any protection environment which it does not belong to. Okay. In short, any user-defined protected procedure will be able to access only the storage segments or the capabilities which belong to its own protection environment. Any protected procedure cannot access any capability which does not belong to its protection environment. So by that, security is clearly enforced in the Cambridge Cap system. And the last thing is, you don't have any library of procedures in this Cambridge Cap system. In Hydra, you had that you had that predefined library of system procedures, right? System procedures which can be used for protection. But then here, you don't have any library of security procedures in Cambridge Cap system. And because of that, if let's say a subsystem designer wants to enforce some protection, then he has to learn the principles and techniques of protection in Cambridge Cap system, and then he has to implement it all by himself, because there is no predefined library available in your Cambridge Cap system. So that is all about the capability based systems. To summarize, we learned that Hydra is a object oriented capability based protection system which was discontinued now, but that was developed as part of the Carnegie Mellon project, and it is just a microkernel, so many additional subsystems can be built on top of it. And the basic object in Hydra consists of name, type, and representation of the object. And the access rights in Hydra objects consists of two things: generic rights, which will be fixed set of access rights which can be interpreted by the system, and another thing is user defined auxiliary rights, which will vary from one object to another. And then rights amplification happened in Hydra with the help of the type manager. And then we also saw that whenever we have mutually suspicious subsystems interacting among themselves, protection was provided by Hydra in such cases. And last, we saw that it had a library of predefined security procedures which can be made use of by the users for providing protection. And then we saw another capability based system called as Cambridge Cap system, where the capabilities were of two types, namely data capabilities and software capabilities. But then if a process gets hold of the data capability, it will be able to only do basic operations like read, write, and execute. But with the software capability, any other additional access rights can be obtained. But then reading or writing to the software capability required access to a protected procedure. So process has to access the protected procedure to read or write to the software capability. So this is not interpreted by the OS or by the microcode in the CAP machine. And we also finally saw that there is no library of predefined system-defined procedures in Cambridge CAP system. So if the techniques of protection has to be learned by the programmer himself and he has to implement it in the Cambridge CAP system. So that is all about the capability-based systems.